I realized that technology is not everybody's thing. I've had to do a lot of troubleshooting with my website. And if I were to do some things over again, I wouldn't have chosen the platform that I chose, not necessarily for my author writer website, but for the website, my farm website. I've had a lot of issues with that, and I will kind of go into that briefly here, just so maybe if someone else is having the same issues, they can kind of understand what's going on and maybe be able to fix them faster and easier than what's happened to me. So basically, if you are writing, or if you have a business, if you are doing anything, more than likely you're going to want to have a website. I feel that in today's day and age, a website is important because it's almost like your profile, where you can have everything in one space. And so if anybody wants to know anything about you, it's all right there on your website. So I am a big fan of having a website, and I'm a big fan of making the website user friendly so that people can find the information that they want and they can want from you, and they can move on. That being said, I don't, excuse me, there is a fly buzzing around my head. We're in the garage, so it's going to happen here out in the country. So that being said, having a website is important, I think, in this day and age. It used to be if I was scrolling social media and I couldn't find a business page, I would get super frustrated and I would feel like that business was less credible in my eyes. And I still kind of feel that way, but honestly, right now, I'm more at the website phase of my life. Like, I'm ready when I want to buy something from someone or know something, like their hours or anything like that. Like, they better have a website, because I'm not going to waste my time with a business or a person that I'm trying to get a hold of, or I'm trying to buy something from, and I don't know how to get the things. Also, I get really frustrated when I get an email from a business and they don't have their website linked. That's super frustrating as well. And I can think of a couple different, I've almost wanted to reach out to these businesses and say, you should have a link in every email to your website, or to your, if you're trying to sell me something, like sometimes I want to buy it and I can't buy it because I don't know where the link is. And yes, in today's day and age, we can Google and all of that stuff. It's just super frustrating, and it makes me irritated as a customer, and then maybe I'm not as likely to buy something, right? So obviously, if you're a writer, maybe you don't have something for sale necessarily, but it is nice, like, if people want to know more about you, that they have a hub to go to. And we'll talk a little bit about social media versus websites in a minute. But first, I just wanted to talk about the different platforms that you might come across and you might be getting ads for. If you have done any sort of searching for website providers or systems, you probably have heard of some of these things. So I just want to kind of break down like the difference between some of the major ones. So maybe that might help you make your decision. Okay, so first off, what platform are you going to put your website on? Your website has to exist in a space on the web, right? And there are these different hosts that will allow you, if you purchase from them, to have a website there. There are some that will allow you to do this for free in exchange for something. So for example, I have in the past set up a free website through Square, and it's an e-commerce site, and I have to use their templates. So that's the downside of some of these, or even payhip.com as well. So if you're wanting to sell items and you're not going to have a lot to sell, these might be good options, or at least just start out with. But the trade-off is they provide you a free space. You have to sign up and have an account, but they provide you with a free space and templates, and you can just upload your products, and there you go. But they will take a transaction fee out of it. So Square makes their money by having a transaction fee for every product that's bought, and then also PayHip is the same way. Square, you have to use their domain name, so their URL. So if my business is Sievers Blumen Farm, I can't connect a domain unless I want to pay to upgrade my plan, but I can use one of their subdomains, so it'd be sieversblumenfarm.square.site or something like that. That's literally what it was. Whereas PayHip, they will allow you to to use your own domain name. So if you purchase a domain somewhere else and you can connect it, but the kicker there is they have a larger transaction fee. So it's like they take 10% instead of like the 3% or 2.9% plus 30-cent fee that Square has. And I think that fee has upped since I had that site. So that's for if you have like you're selling products. So most of the time if you're just a writer, unless you're self-publishing the books and you have like the physical copies of the books, you're probably not going to use either of those sites. If you're still wanting to do e-commerce, then there's other sites like Shopify and Squarespace, and those are also more e-commerce based. You can actually go to squarespace.com and you can go sign up. Everything's there. You don't even have to buy the domain separately. You can just buy everything there, go through that, use their plan, and it's so much per month, or I think you can be billed annually as well. Squarespace has a lot of great templates and they're very clean websites from what I can tell. I can tell if something is a Squarespace website most of the time, just by the way it functions and everything. And then you have Shopify, which is like more and more people are switching to Shopify. If you want to follow someone that is a writer and author that has been setting up a Shopify store, and she's talked about it at length on her blog and her podcast, you should follow Joanna Penn. It's the Creative Penn podcast. She has talked so much about setting up a Shopify store, and she actually has a Shopify store. I believe it's jfpennbooks.com and creativepennbooks.com. So a little plug for her. I've really enjoyed her podcast. She's awesome. So if you don't follow her, you should. So, and she's even got her Shopify store plugged into where she sells print on demand books. And so they're not even physical copies, but she has a store and there is like these plugins basically where she can sell print on demand books from her store. So if you purchase a book from her store, then there is like basically an app that will transfer that data to the printer, and the printer can print it and ship it to you, and she never sees that product. So that's really cool. And that Shopify has that capability. And so that is a great way to have a website presence and also have the e-commerce capabilities if you need that. And then on Shopify too, you can have a blog, same way as Squarespace. You can have blog articles or anything like that. I just think Squarespace might be a little bit more limited in their in the design part of that. It might not be. I feel like what I've been seeing is that Shopify is a little more customizable in that aspect. But and I think the pricing is comparable with both of Squarespace and Shopify. They are hosted on their own network, basically. So then you run into, you can also do e-commerce, but when I was starting my flower farm, I wanted to, I didn't have things I wanted to sell online. I just wanted a website to have a platform on the internet, right, where people could go and find out information. So I originally started with WordPress.com, and again, that's all you can purchase a domain through them. You can set everything up. Now the kicker is like you can't buy certain what they call plugins, which are basically little apps that run different things for your website. So if you want to connect your email list and you're going through a different email service provider, you can get these little plugins that will run different things on your site. And so they make you up it to like a creator plan or business plan, and you end up paying a bit more for that site, and you have less functionality, in my opinion. So then if you're really wanting to go that route, you're not wanting to go with like Shopify or Squarespace or even Wix.com, I think is the same way. If you don't want to go e-commerce route and you want to have a really powerful website that's a lot more customizable and maybe a little bit harder to develop, but it's a lot more customizable, and it's definitely geared more towards content like blogs, pages, and all of that, you would want to go with a host provider, and there are many of those. So you would sign up through them like SiteGround, Bluehost, I think Big Scoots is one, and there's several of those. You would purchase like a spot on the web through them, and then you can download wordpress.org and then set up your site based on wordpress.org, which is different from wordpress.com, but it's kind of functions the same. And you have way more capability on that. And you usually can spend less money. You have way more capability. You can buy a bunch of different themes for your website and all of that. And then you can set up your blog and you can set up an e-commerce store through WordPress. So just as an example, my farm website is it's hosted on SiteGround. I can have multiple websites on my plan too without additional costs, which is awesome. So it's free for me to just start another website and I can have multiple of them. I just have to buy the domains, so the URLs. So I have my author website on there. I have another farm. I have my farm website. I have another blog farm website on there. I could just keep creating those, and I'm sure there's a limit, but basically I can have all those spots on the web, and I can buy all those URLs through them or through another place, and then I can just connect them to there, and then I can go in and my site's very customizable, right? So from there, I picked out my own theme, downloaded that, did all of that. And then I decided I wanted to add the e-commerce portion to it. And so now it's free to do. I have WooCommerce. I installed that basically on my farm website. And so it's all on the same website and I can do e-commerce through that. It's just WooCommerce is not as friendly, not near as friendly as Shopify would be or some of those other sites. It's very clunky. You have to buy all these additional plugins to do the things you want. And so I've had issues with that, but you can do that. I mean, if you're just setting up a simple store and you're selling a couple products, WooCommerce would work great for you. The next thing I wanted to we've kind of went over it, but is basically just deciding your goals. So if you have a goal, then you can decide better what platform you want to use. Again, do you want to have an online store? Maybe you think no, but in the future, maybe you do have like small ebooks you want to sell, or even like a PDF copy of like the first couple chapters of a book or something. I don't know. And you can even put it on there for free as like a lead magnet and set up your email service provider to where when they like go through and make that purchase, you either give them a link to it, but you also, when they go through and make that free purchase, then you can tag them on your email list and so on. You can also do that through your email signups as well, but that's just an idea. So basically you need to decide what your goal is. Okay, and the next thing is why having a website is important, or some things that you want to include on your website would be just descriptive language. So this will help you with your SEO or search engine optimization. You need to, if people Google you online, they want to be able to find you and not someone else, right? So clearly have your name stated, clearly have what you do. If you're selling something, have clear descriptions on your product descriptions. If you are especially if you're location dependent. So for my flower farm, this may not be the same for writers, but for my flower farm, I tried to say we are in the St. Louis area. So maybe if someone Googles St. Louis area roses or something like that, then they can be able to find us. So you have to tell Google and tell people what you are, who you are, what you provide, anything like that. You have to be descriptive. And so you can be descriptive on different pages of your website, like your about page and your front page. If you just have a single page website, like have some information there so that you are searchable, essentially. There is a whole boatload of information on SEO, and I'm not an expert, but I'm just the general idea of that. Also, on your website, you want to have great imagery. So I go to a website, I'm not perfect at this, but if I go to a website and it's a bunch of like grainy photos from like an old digital camera from or way back when, it just in my eyes, it may not be true, but in my eyes, they are not as credible. So, for example, there was a lady, and I heard an interview with her, and she built this very successful blog. And so I wanted to know more about this lady because I heard that she made all this money on this blog, and it was intriguing to me. So I go to her blog, which was about like home improvement. I'm sure she made money through her ads basically on the website, but it was just kind of like some of the website just seemed the pictures were weird. And then when I saw her actual picture, it almost looked like it was taken from a webcam in a dark room, super grainy and just not a good picture. And it just, to me, if I was actually looking for an answer on that site and I just happened to see that photo, I know she used to run a store, like a flooring store. So she obviously knew some things about flooring and home improvement probably. I just put her down a notch in my eyes, which sucks, but it's kind of the reality. So if you can get some professional photos or like take some really good pictures with your camera, you can take excellent photos with iPhones or these newer phones now. There's really no excuse to not have some decent photography or something decent. Again, I'm not perfect. Like this video in general is not perfect. I don't have the perfect backdrop, and I don't, sometimes on my Flower Farm YouTube channel, I'm not dressed the best way or whatever, but I'm trying my best to present things in a mostly presentable way. The information is important too, but the better quality you can make some of these things, the more credible you're going to be in people's eyes. So again, I'm not perfect. Somebody might nitpick me on that, but that's just a little tip. Also, if you are writing, so maybe you just want to create a website just to have a one-page website and just get all the information out there, right? That is great. And I think if you're doing this on your own, maybe that's the way to go. But if you have the capacity to write a couple blog posts, I think that is well worth it because, again, for your search engine optimization, you could write a blog post if you are a writer of thrillers, let's say. You could write a blog post about what makes a great thriller. You could write a blog post about like why you chose a certain setting for your thriller and all of that. So, or you could talk about different elements in one of your thrillers and why you chose those. And so maybe if someone's searching for, let's say you set your thriller in the Tower of London in England, and this is why, you could explain why, and then you could have another post about like just some little interesting history tidbits that you picked up from your research. And so if someone's searching the Tower of London, you might rank for something on a search engine, and then they might click through and they're like, oh, there's a book about this. That's so cool. Here's this author. How do I buy this book? And so on. Or read the book, the description of your book. So having a blog is not a bad thing if you can, and it doesn't have to be perfect either. Like try to make it grammatically correct and pleasing to the eye if you can. But just if you're talking about these things, you're more likely to rank for them in a search engine. And then, you're more likely to get eyeballs on things. And again, there's like a whole kind of almost science to that as well. It's just something to think about, is possibly writing a few posts here and there. And then also, if I follow an author, for example, Susanna Kersley, I believe is how you would pronounce her name. I love her books, and if I find a book of hers, I will go and buy it whenever I see it. And I just stumbled upon her website, and then she had like a little update about her life basically, and just book writing and stuff. And I just love that. That was cool. And her blog wasn't super updated, but it was just cool to like get some behind the scenes of that person. I always want to know more about a person sometimes when I buy something from them. So something to keep in mind. And then lastly, for why I think you should build a website, and the importance of websites is there's this whole, I'm sure you might be watching this and be like, well, why can't I just build, like, why can't I just have a Facebook page or an Instagram page or TikTok or whatever social media platform you're on, or just Substack? I do think these are all platforms, first of all, that are owned by someone else. And yes, like the hosting platforms are owned by someone else other than you, but you have more control over them. If Facebook changes or shuts down, like your whole follower, like your whole profile, if you don't have a website, like that's just gone, and all your pictures and your posts. And even then, even though it's all on there and you have pictures and you have information about you on there, it's hard. Like people see the most immediate posts, but they're not going to go back through your, they don't really go back in time to look at things, especially on Instagram. Like they're going to see what pops up in their feed and then that's it. And if they stumble upon you for the first time, they might like go through and like the last 6 posts you made, but then they're not going to go all the way back. So I have an issue sometimes with businesses. I don't know anything about them and I'm trying to learn more about them. And it's like, you got to scroll so far back to find something. It's not easily searchable, basically. When you have a website, you could have information in a blog post or on your website somewhere, and it's easily searchable. You can click around on the website and find it rather quickly. There's usually a search box on a website where somebody can type something in and there it is. So having a website, it can be easily searchable. People can find out the information they want to find out. I think that's super important in today's day and age. Secondly, you don't own your followers. You could, if you had a website and you had a sign up form for your email list, like people could sign up for your email list and then you can copy and paste that email list into any email service provider you want. You can go, if something happens to MailChimp, you can, if you have that list backed up, you can just put it in another email service provider like ConvertKit, or even upload those people into Substack or whatever. So you have that contact information. So you can kind of own that contact information. If you lose all your Facebook followers, they're lost. Like if Facebook shuts down or Instagram, like they're gone. You don't have them. It is harder to have like a deeper level connection with people on social media. And frankly, I think a lot of people are just getting tired of social media. So just always having that evergreen space on the internet that you exist in. I just think that's really important to have that evergreen space where your hours are listed. If you have if you're a business and you have, I'm open Monday through Friday, this time to this time. Again, if you're a writer, that may not be the case, but you can say, this is where my book is sold, even if you don't have an e-commerce site, or this is where you can find samples of my writing, or this is where you can just direct people much more easily. And then you can always send them back to your social media if you need to. Now, this brings up another point, because Substack is kind of this new emerging social media platform that's also like a blog, that's also like an email newsletter, all bundled up into one. And I'm fairly new to Substack. It has, for a lot of writers, it has this great built-in community. So it's got that social media aspect. You can now write notes, which is kind of neat. So that's kind of like the Twitter or the status updates that Facebook used to be. But then you can also have like basically a blog post that exists on the internet and is searchable. So you can write a post and it exists on your Substack like it would on a website. Now, the bad part is that it's not customizable. There's not a lot of custom features you can do. It's basically about the writing. So for some people, that's all they need and want, and that's great. So basically, my thoughts are, you need a website if you have any sort of business or product where you need outside people to come find you. If you're a local business, I think you're relying on just foot traffic through your business, I still think you need a website, because people want to know when they can walk into your store, or when events are, or something about you, or maybe the products that you have before they come to your store. I don't think people are as willing to just walk into a store they just don't have the time to go just shopping in general, right? Especially when they can just go on Amazon or something and buy certain things. So I think no matter what you're doing, you need to have a website in general, unless you just don't have a business at all and you don't have any sort of platform or anything like that. Don't pay the extra money if you don't need to. Having a website, I think, is important if you are selling anything, whether it's services or products or anything like that. You can use that place to have a blog where you write more about different things that might help you rank in a search engine or might help you connect with your readers or your fans or your customers. And then from there, you can also have a sign up to an email list. So people can sign up for their email list and develop even more of a relationship with you. But then also there, you can have your information about your social media. So people could also follow your social media based on that. And you can link to other things as well. So even if you're not selling your book on your website, you can have links on there so people can go to the actual Amazon listing or the listing on Barnes & Noble or the listing on wherever else. So you can link to all of these things. And then also if you're on Substack, you can link to that and people can sign up that way if they want. Like everything, it's your central hub there. So I definitely think having a website's important. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, feel free to send me an email, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching today. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon.